Welcome back for another episode of Strive for 25. Joel Farrell here, and looking forward to sharing with you to another episode with Strive for 25. I'm Joel Farrell, and I have an amazing guest on today, Lindsey Hardman. And this fits into our savings equation series. Again, income minus your expenses equals your savings. And again, a ton of content out there about cutting your expenses. And this is all about how to generate more income. And Lindsey has a really cool story for us. And she's got a 9-to-5 job, been in a couple industries, including IT, and she's been building a business on the side. And we want to dig into this and show everybody kind of one example of somebody that's just doing it out there. So, Lindsey, if you want to just give us a quick background on who you are and kind of what you're doing. Yeah.
It may not be, who knows? But yeah, so my most of my background was actually in the equine industry. So I grew up managing different farms and ranches and learning how to train horses and trained under some professionals. And I did that up until I was about 20. Oh gosh, it was early 20s. Did that all through college, and I worked at a law firm in college as well. My degree's in criminal justice, but the horses was my 9-to-5, but basically in the equine industry, it's very common for a 9-to-5 to be a 16, 17-hour day. So that was completely normal. So I did that for most of my life, and then decided it was time to kind of branch out a little bit from there and actually get insurance and have a little bit more of a net as I got a little bit older, and got a fantastic job at a corporate office and kind of went the corporate route for a little bit. And I've been doing that for about the last 7-8 years now, and just kind of growing different things in the process. And just over the last couple of years, especially during COVID, I realized that there was a need in the market, and it would happen to be something that I absolutely loved to do. And I had been doing for the better part of 15, 20 years, and finally just decided to go for it. And here I am talking to you about it now. So yes. that's the SparkNotes version.
Okay, so tell me, copyright. I asked you this question,
yes,
not that long ago. So
okay.
What does that mean for the?
So copywriting is basically any of the text or anything you see in print with a call to action. So website copy, ads, email sequences, different things that you'll see in marketing in general. And you'll hear the words copywriting and content writing. They're two separate things. And content writing is a lot of the inspirational, the fluff, the longer form text that you'll see on different platforms. And copywriting is what you will find when there is a call to action somewhere. And every industry uses it. So it is a very widespread industry. And the pro and the con with it is that copywriters are actually a dime a dozen. Like, you could go anywhere online and find a copywriter for anything. However, one of the things that I love to do, and I put such an emphasis on, is being able to speak to the voice of the person who needs that copy or content. And one of the things that I didn't realize when I first started looking into the business side of this is that so many people hate that part of it. And that's actually what I love about it. So I've been writing in general for, like I said, 15, 20 years, and just a lot for my own stuff, for a lot of different industries, just because I loved it and people needed help with it. So between like nonprofits and different startups, I never tracked it. I never tracked like the progress of like those, those things. I just looked when people needed help, I helped them out. And
can you give like one example along that journey of, hey, just doing it to help people? What was one example of something you did?
Nonprofit, just like a nonprofit needed help, and they knew that I loved to write, and I had written, they had seen a lot of what I'd written in the past, just for shits and giggles, for lack of a better word.
Mm-hmm.
And I really hope I can turn that off.
You're fine.
That's going to drive me nuts. Hold on. That's good. Naturally. Sorry. Okay. If you know how to turn that off on a Mac, then please tell me, because it's off on my phone. It's not off.
Can't over there.
Okay. Sorry. Well, we're going to have to deal with that. Anyway. So I helped out some nonprofits, and then that kind of grew. And then I started working consistently with 2 other nonprofits. And so like my love for working with nonprofits grew. So worked kind of heavily with them. And it just kind of totally organically grew to this thing that I would just help keep different people out with this part, because they knew that I loved it. And people, for the longest time, everybody and their brother said, you should really make a business out of this. And I was like, no, I love it. I want to keep it as something that I love. It's a huge passion of mine. I do want to be an author one day. And I've been working on a book, and It's like, it's such a, there are different types of writing that you could, different directions you could go. And a lot of people think you could go, do just copywriting or do just content writing. And I was like, I couldn't do just one. Like, that's not for me. So it wasn't until COVID where it really hit me that seeing so many businesses floundering and needing help because they didn't have time to continue getting their story out there. Their focus, rightfully so, was keeping the business afloat behind the scenes and in front of customers. They just didn't have any additional time. So just, a few people here and there reaching out and saying that, this is an area where they needed help. And I was like, oh, like I'd love to help. And then through the course of time, it was just like, oh, maybe this is something that I could do something with and actually enjoy it as my own business, not so like, I just love to serve people. I love to serve and help and, share the story. That's the most important thing to me that I'm so passionate about is the story behind somebody else's passion. Mm-hmm. Because I've met so many incredible entrepreneurs and business owners and CEOs who just, they dive into the business, but when it comes to sharing the story behind it, that may not be their forte, but it's mine. And I love that. That's the first question I ask when I go to different seminars and conferences and meet people. It's like, what's your story? Why is this thing important to you? And sometimes when you go to someone's website, it's like you could meet a person, and I watch this happen. You could meet someone at a conference and they're incredible and they tell you about their product and their business. And then you go to their website and it's like, well, this doesn't demonstrate what they just told me, but you've already met the person and you know how amazing it is. Or you see a website first, you find a website or a product that you think is interesting, you read about it and it looks awesome, but then you meet the person behind it and you realize, okay, clearly someone else wrote this because this isn't their talent, but you still see the passion behind it. And that's where the dots started connecting, because I was like, okay, this is something that I do love to do. And I would love to help those people who just don't have the time, the energy, or the skill to write and share the why, the how, and how to get in touch kind of thing.
So you mentioned a website, right? So I'm just thinking to myself, okay, so writing content, writing copyright, there's a difference there. Call to action is where copyright would be an example. Content would be just like blog stories. Yep. So right now, what's hot for social media, TikTok, Instagram, short video, yes. that would fall into the content.
It depends on what the product is. So if someone is like, when you hear the word content creator, typically they have brands that they're working with. So they're just kind of promoting that. And eventually, like the content they put out there, the videos, the voiceovers and everything, that is driving traffic to whatever the brand is. That's kind of like one of those blurred line areas. Okay. So online, so like copy by itself, you're looking at websites, ads, email sequences, landing pages, so text in a brochure or something like that, depending on what it is. Okay. Content, like if you go to someone's website and you'll see even an airline, the whole website is copy, but then maybe they do have a blog that explains the why, the how behind different routes that they take. There's no real call to action there, but it's information that is still very useful to their market. Okay. So that's I think a pretty good summary of the basics of what that actually is. And like you said, there's a dime a dozen out there. Yep. Of people in this space. But your differentiator is, I've known you for how many, 5 years now, I think, since 2017. 5 or 6 years now. It's been a while.
And you've got experience in a couple different fields. You deal with people, you connect with people. And, because of that background, I think, that is a separator for you. But do you want to kind of explain a little bit about, sure, the different sides of the industry? Because you mentioned, the equine and the criminal justice. And you want to just dig in a little bit deeper?
Sure. So like when I started the business, I initially started with just I really niched down to the equine industry because that's what I'd done for my entire life. And I have so many connections on the professional side of it. Up to the Olympic level. So it was like, I already had kind of the base professional network there. And so that's how I got started. And within a couple of months, people were seeing what I was putting out there for some of the clients that I had on the equine side and reaching out and saying, hey, I'm not a horse, I'm not a horse trainer or a farrier or whatever, but I'm on this side of the market and I could use some help with ABC. And I see what you write. And I love the voice. I love the tone. I love that you can speak to a person and hear what their tone is so that you can share it that way. And that's one of the most important pieces because obviously, male, female, different industries, you're going to have different voices. And there are so many people who are already well known And if they were to go out and find a copywriter on, not necessarily Craigslist, but I mean like Upwork or Fiverr or anything, it's like they may not have the time nor the desire to sit down with you, talk with you, learn your voice, how you speak, so that when I'm writing as you, your audience still 100% believes that it's you. Otherwise, they're going to know that you're fake and you're not, it's not really you. And there has to be that balance there. So like, yes, one of my clients is not, he's on social media with his business, but he's just not super active. So we really had to work on like tapering the addition of content for him, because people would have easily known that if all of a sudden, an influx of eloquent, well-written something came up, that it really wasn't him. So we have to finagle that a little bit. And then I have another one who she and I speak very similarly. So it kind of comes fairly easy because we can just, almost fly off the cuff sometimes. But that's the benefit of having someone who's literally, it's having a writer on your team, on your side, who's here, and you can say something that you think doesn't mean anything. But to me, I'm hearing a tone of voice, maybe some sarcasm here and there, which is great, depending on what you're putting out there, because that helps me be you for your audience. You know what I mean?
Totally. So, yeah, I mean, that really, is interesting, because like you were saying before, it's like, coming out of the downturn in 2020 COVID, hey, I'm in the mortgage industry myself and our team, and we're trying to just make sure that we can pay the bills, figure out how to survive. And so, along these last couple of years, we're doing things that we may not have wanted to do or didn't envision us doing. So, I mean, thinking about this stuff that, may not pay the bills today, but it will help you 6 months from now.
Yep.
Doing that kind of stuff, from a marketing perspective or content perspective, very, very challenging to put on different hats when you're trying to, basically survive. So, very, very valuable stuff.
Having someone there who, like I said, I mean, it's hearing the feedback from people. It makes my heart sore, because it's just because you're helping somebody, and that was my fear initially, was like, hey, if I make this a business, maybe it's going to take away some of the passion for me, but it's only ignited it more, because like you were saying, as far as the background stuff, I've been so blessed to be in a variety of different backgrounds, and I still work in a variety of different areas just because I like to stay busy. But I mean, I work with the military, I still work with horses, I work with the nonprofits. So there's a whole host of voices, male, female, like super alpha, introverted, that I have to kind of keep track of. But I love people and I love connecting. And so like that part is actually fairly easy for me, but it's the best part in my mind. So I get excited about it.
And talking about the digital branding, right? I mean, I was reading, I think we were talking about this, a couple weeks back, The Rock, right? We all know who The Rock is, Dwayne Johnson, and he's WWE actor, this and that. Talk about building a digital brand over the years. And obviously this is the extreme case of it, because this is a superstar type of famous person. But, he launched a tequila brand. I forget the name of it, but it was like the #1 tequila launch in their first year in terms of sales. And they had a very specific, unique, digital branding type of strategy. And I won't get into all that stuff, but the digital brand, it matters, because at the end of the day, there's so many different platforms that are succeeding, whether it be Instagram, right. YouTube is huge, and the different ways people are able to generate, awareness of what they do is just skyrocketing. So the digital branding is so important, and having somebody to be able to tell your story is even more important, and be able to leverage that across different platforms and put it on autopilot.
It's such a fun area too, because since I've started this, so many people have come to me and said, hey, what's the best platform to be on? What should I be saying? And I'm like, people will tell you everything under this, that you should be doing this, you should be doing this on this platform and all these platforms. And I'm like, truly, whichever one works best for you, like try them out, see what works best, see where you're comfortable, branch. I mean, don't stay in the comfort zone, but see where it works. Like there's some places where being on TikTok may not be the best choice. Like it is what it is. And sometimes it will be, it just depends. But there's so many people that are just pushing, you have to do ABC in order to be successful in this arena. I'm like, we're all learning. Everybody's learning. Let people grow. Let people try different things and see what works, and then roll with it. Keep going.
Yeah. I mean, like on my own personal journey, trying to build out an Instagram account and doing the research and learning, some of the tips and trades, and like, in our business, in the mortgage business, it's very chaotic. It's, we're commission based. So, hey, like, if you're not closing loans, you're not getting paid. So it's that crazy mentality you have to keep going and keep going and keep pushing. But it's also the squirrel mentality. You may do a set of activities and not see results for a month or 6 months. And so you have that squirrel onto the next quick, easy fix. And it's not just our industry, it's many other industries, especially if we're trying to do things online and social media and build a brand and build a presence. It takes months, years to be able to make something happen. So to not see the actual tangible results, right away and just keep on going, because in a year you may see results. That's the part that I see people trying to do too much one time and not seeing any results, and they stop. It's like, well, if you just keep on going, get that habit.
It's always the consistency thing. And the thing that one of the things I love about social media, and if you ask any of my personal circle, they will tell you how much I hated social media for a really long time, just because it can be a very, very dark place. But when you know how to use it effectively and in a way that can actually help people, it's a wonderful, wonderful tool. And one of the best examples that I've had is a post I made, don't remember when, it regarded, trigger warning, but about suicide, because that is a part of my story as well. And someone somewhere had seen it, and it had been basically one of those recycled posts. And someone had seen it and reached out to me months, maybe over a year later, and just said how much finding that post mattered to them in the moment. It was what they needed to read at the time. And that was one of those driving forces of, okay, it doesn't matter when you say it, how you say it. If you have a message that is important that is going to impact somebody, you need to say it, because you truly don't know when it's going to impact the right person at the right time and possibly save their life. And that's a big jump from just, basic marketing and, copywriting and content writing. But that's what is so important with this, because no matter what your product is, your goal is to sell something in the marketing space. Like your goal is to sell something, share something. And at the end of the day, it's to make somebody's life better. And if that truly is your end goal, then you need the right tools, the right people on your team to do that. And that's the cool part about having, maybe the right writer on your team. It makes a big difference.
Right. So I want to dig into more of, your why, what's your ultimate goal? And then how did you go from, hey, not doing this, and then to say, you know what, it's time to do it. I want to dig into that in a second, but we haven't really spelled out, and you'll see it in the notes and description of where you can find Lindsey at. But your LinkedIn post a while back caught my eye. I was like, I need to talk to Lindsey. I got a couple projects I'm working on, and then we connected and we talking and et cetera, et cetera. So, but how do people find you?
You can find me on LinkedIn, just Lindsey Hardman, Lindsey Hardman. And then I am on Instagram at Lindsey Hope Co. All one word, all lowercase.
Lindsey what?
Hope, HOPECO. That's the middle name.
Lindsey Hope Co. Okay,
right.
Cool. I know I follow you, but
that's okay.
I forgot what it was, so I wanted to write it down.
That's okay. It's honestly, it's not a huge following yet, which I don't mind. It's it's my clients that they're booming, and that's the point. So I'm kind of like the quiet person in the corner.
Well, what's so interesting? This is a whole nother topic. Is that you see people that have 100,000 followers and however many millions of followers, and they're making money on Instagram. But if people are able to generate revenue with smaller followings, but people that are actually engaged, it's all about the engagement with your followers, connecting with your followers, and adding value and truly trying to be able to help somebody out. So again, any listeners out there, I started with 0 followers on July 12th, and now I've got like 125.
Mm-hmm. You're killing it.
So it's like, hey, at the end of the day, if you've got a message, like you said, Lindsey, if you've got a message, you got to share it and don't stop. And I'm going to just segue for one thing. So there's a book by Tim Grover, and I talk about this all the time. And this is a mentality that I have adopted along the way. You're talking about deadlines. So Tim Grover is the trainer for Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, et cetera. And one of the things he talks about in his book, Winning, is, when a deadline comes, and talking about time, people count down to a deadline, and 3, 2, 1, and the pressure's on, and what type of product do you actually produce? And the best people who are killing it, they've got a goal, and they don't stop till they get there. They count up. Hey, I'm on the 10th day of this journey, on this to get to this goal, 20th day, 25th day. So it's something that I have adopted in my own little, things that I'm working on. So,
but again, it goes back to consistency, right? It's keeping that pace no matter what. You're going to hit some roadblocks no matter what. Like, doesn't matter what you try, you're going to. So just put that part out of your mind. Don't be worried about that, because you will. Just keep going.
Yep. You're picking yourself back up and getting back on the path. So when you went and say, you know what, I'm going to just do this all in on this and make it happen, make it a reality. Can you kind of share what was it that put you over the ledge to actually do this?
It was a few different things. I knew that I'm so blessed to have a job, a 9 to 5 that I love and a team that I love. But over the course of, again, like since COVID and doing more of this, it was like, I realized the butterflies that I feel when I'm doing this for someone, for a company or for a nonprofit or, one single person, a client. And I really wanted to dive into that because now that I don't have kids of my own, but I have a 7-year-old niece now who is very, for whatever reason, inspired by me. So I'm trying to keep, I want to keep her vision of me good, hopefully for a little bit. I want to stay cool for a long time, but I want to stay that person for her. And I want to be someone that she can continue to look up to. And looking at my life at the time. And yes, I had some really good things going on, but the overwhelming joy that, you kind of hope to have at some point really wasn't there. And I realized that there were some pieces that's on me. That's not on anybody else but me. I had a good job. I have 2 good dogs. I have my horse, like everything's good, but there's some joy that's missing. And that is 100% on me to be able to fulfill certain things in my life that I want to continue pursuing. And a lot of that, of course, comes down to finances. People talk about money doesn't matter. Well, it does. Like you can be happy with a limited amount of money. However, money helps to pay the bills and take care of things and lessen the stress. And I had, between the 2 dogs and the horse, someone's always hurt, including myself. So it's just, I was so tired of just always stressing about those bills and not being able to come see my family when I just pick up and run when I wanted to. And I was just kind of tossing around in my head, what could I do, that would allow me the freedom to go do that while I'm still doing all these other things, because I still help run 2 nonprofits. I still have the 9 to 5. So it's like getting another job was, of course I could do that. But again, from a time perspective, I was just rolling through some options in my head. And it was one of those little, it just kind of flickered a little bit. Like, maybe you should actually pursue this. And I was like, no, I don't want to lose the love of it. Because I've always you hear that, right? It's like, never do what you love for a living. And I'm like, that's BS. So finally I had a kind of an epiphany, and I had made, and this is something that I actually speak quite a bit on. I made a deal with myself many, many years ago, and I don't remember why I did it then, but basically I got so tired of being afraid to try things, just because basic imposter syndrome and insecurities, set in. And I had made a deal with myself that if an opportunity presented itself, if something came up that could be really good for my life, but I felt insecure or felt like I couldn't do it, or that, I wasn't good enough, the automatic answer was yes, every time. Like, unless it threatened my safety, like for whatever reason, but the answer would be yes, because I knew at that point that it was simply insecurity and imposter syndrome. So that has guided my life for many years now, and it has served me extremely well. So anytime I feel that, I automatically know what's going on. And it's like, well, crap, now if I've done this to myself, the answer is automatically yes. So I started to, when that little trickle came into my head and I thought about it, and I was like, immediately no. And then I remembered, of course, my deal with myself. And I was like, well, that makes that decision for me, I guess. So let's rewind. And then I just started digging into how to build a business. And I'm very thankful that over the course of the last several years, I've worked with several entrepreneurs and different business owners. So I've had a really good network of people that I've been able to watch and grow with. So it wasn't totally going in blind, but for me, it was all new. So I knew how to write. I knew that I could write. I knew that I could do it. It was just a matter of putting the structure around it. So that's kind of where I had to put a lot of my hustle into. And It was very much once it launched, it didn't blow up necessarily, but it was not quiet, which kind of surprised me. Because I'd already been writing, and that's kind of that was another epiphany, because I'd already been writing, I'd already been sharing. So when I went live, people came out of the woodworks. And they're like, hey, I need help. I've been waiting on you to do this. I need help with this. I could use your help with this. I've been waiting for someone to be able to do this, and I can't do it myself. And I'm sitting here, I'm like, how in the world am I going to manage all this now by myself with the 9 to 5 and the nonprofits and everything? And I was like, let's go do it. And sometimes, like, one of the best phrases I've ever heard, it's some people say ready, aim, fire. Sometimes it's just fire, aim, ready. You just do it backwards. And so I just ran with it. And there's definitely been some nights of less sleep and less doing things for myself, which is okay. That's part of entrepreneurship and building a business. And I don't mind at all. Like, it's definitely tiring and exhausting sometimes, and you have to say no to some things, but it's been 100% worth it. I do not regret. And it's been 8 months now. It's been 8 months.
Okay. So you launched 8 months ago. So I do want to get into the day in the life, right? Because that's when the rubber hits the road. Hey, when you've had a long day, you got things to do, then the question is, do you do it or do you say, I'll do it tomorrow? And it's an opportunity either gained or lost, right? I want to dig into that with you here. But you're 8 months into this. What type of percent of your income were you able to increase it by from where you were just doing what you were already doing previously? What kind of increase in percentage wise?
I have, so based on like my current like 9 to 5 salary, I would say I have reached about probably 50% of my current salary.
Okay. That's a pretty sizable jump to be able to tap into. And so, on this channel, we're always talking about, hey, once you've got money set aside, right, you can put it in your emergency funds and start to purchase assets. Then the asset can grow over time at a certain rate of return or expected rate of return, then add in time. And if, the longer you have your funds invested, hopefully the more it's going to grow. And, the younger you start, the more time you have on your side. And if you were to kind of just map out what would be your ultimate dream, your goal, when you go down and fast forward the clock 5 years, what is driving you? What is pushing you to say, hey, I'm going to go in and put all this effort in?
Yep.
What's your end game here? What's your vision?
Very easy answer. So my goal, obviously, number one is to replace my salary and then some. Obviously, I want to be able to cover all the bills and still be comfortable enough to have, funds for an emergency vet bill, because horses are always going to be a part of my life and I'm always going to get hurt. And I just need to have that. But of course, there's always, it's not so much the life of luxury, but I want to be able to, I don't live close to my family. I want to be able to come visit my family whenever I want and be able to come to the ballet recitals and the birthdays and everything. And so just not, like I said, not necessarily a life of comfort, but to be able to do the things that I love without the concern of breaking my back every day, bending over backwards. But the initial driving force of all this is, but going back to the equine side, my horse is now 21. We don't compete. We don't, do a whole lot of training anymore. He's retired and living on my dime, which he loves, and I don't mind one bit. But my goal is to get back into the competition ring again. I love to compete. I absolutely love to compete, but it is extraordinarily expensive. And I was very lucky for a long time to be sponsored and be able to ride client horses and compete that way, which is fantastic. And I'll never regret that. But I want to be able to do it on my own with my own horse and grow with my own horse up the levels and everything. And that's something that I haven't been able to do for a long time because I can't afford 2 horses right now. And so that's a huge driving motivator, because I know the great part about the horse industry is that you're competing against yourself. There's so many team sports. Team sports are great, but I'm more competitive with myself than I am with other people. So, we go based on scores, and there's some scores that I haven't gotten yet that I want to get, and it's just a very expensive sport. So that has been such a driving force, because I know what it's going to take financially to get to a point where I can both support myself and replace my salary, but also support that second horse and competing and the goals there. So that's a huge motivator.
Cool. I love it. Yep. Back to a day in the life, right? So you're doing your day job. You get up at what time?
I get up at 4:30.
So get up at 4:30. Okay. And what kind of routines do you have in the morning before you have to actually, get in and start working?
Whole routine. Yep. I get up at 4:30. The dogs go out for a potty break real quick. I don't know if we need to know that. That's probably TMI.
No, this is all part of it. It's all part of the day.
They come out and I get ready to go to the gym, and I am at the gym for, an hour and a half usually. And then I come home, I shower, dogs go out after they eat. And while they play, I'm outside with my laptop and a book, and I'll either read first and work then, or vice versa. But I read a lot of self-development books and business strategy now. So have my book out there, my laptop, and I work on my own business from that time until my 9 to 5 starts.
So what's the ballpark on that time that you're working on your business?
Probably like 7:30 to like 8:45.
Okay.
Out there, I'll read a snippet of the book and then go and dive into my stuff and answer client questions if they've already reached out to me with something.
What are 2 books on both those sides, business and self-development? Which are the 2 books that you're reading right now? Or
I thought I had it right next to me. Trillion Dollar Coach.
That's awesome. I'll have to check that one out. Okay. I want $1 trillion.
Right?
I want a country's GDP.
what was the other one? Of course, like I've read a bunch this year, like Extreme Ownership. Jocko Willink is amazing. Dichotomy of Leadership. Ironically enough, like Brene Brown's books, she's not like, she speaks to a lot of businesses. So I don't know if it would fall under the business book, but I've read more of hers this year. Phenomenal. And in relation to actually running a business. So yeah, always have a book with me out there. Oh, this Storyteller's Secret I was reading this year. That's also awesome. So I'll read, work, and then I start my 9 to 5, and then more people, different meetings throughout the day, and then do that all day. And then 5:30ish, I'll log off, and the dogs, depending on the time of year, currently in Texas, it has been an average of like 107. So usually we would go for a walk after work, but that's had to wait until after 9 o'clock right now. But then whatever we need to do with dogs go play for a little bit, burn out some steam, and then we go right back into my business. And then I'll work on content, the copywriting, depending on what the clients need at the time, strategy for the next few weeks. We plan posts ahead of time, go over what we want to talk about, next month, and just map out a strategy a little bit there for everybody. And then I typically, depending on the day, I'm working very hard to not be the person that can't let it go so I can actually sleep. I think we're all, especially as an entrepreneur, we're all guilty of that. So I try very hard. If I can find a stopping point at a reasonable hour, I will. However, what I have found is that if I have an idea, and any writer will tell you, writer's block is a real thing, and you can write for hours and everything just flows and it's great. And then sometimes it just stops and the creativity just doesn't come for a little bit. And so I'm very good now. I'm getting better at, depending on where I'm at 9:30 or 10 o'clock, I will either keep going until it's gone, or I will stop and go to bed, because being extraordinarily tired and having no sleep doesn't help anybody. But it's like, and that kind of boils over to the next day. It's like I get up at 4:30. So if the morning starts terribly, the rest of the day is not going to be good. So I try really hard to balance that. I am not an expert at it, but I'm getting there.
So just kind of recapping this, so you've got a jam-packed day, a lot that you do, and it sounds like you do it very consistently. And, I've got my own things that I do, my own plan, my own things that I have to, really regiment and make and build habits to be able to make sure that I can continue to do them. But talking about reading and then working on some business stuff in that 7:30 to 8:45 hour, one of the things that we talk a lot about on this channel is, harnessing the power of the subconscious brain to be able to help you reach your goals. And it sounds like you're reading this content every single day in this certain genre, filling your mind with your goals and some of the action items it takes to get there, and basically programming your brain to be able to reach those goals and doing it every single day. Is that right?
Correct.
Cool.
100%.
Love it. Got your 9 to 5, take some time off with the family, the dogs, etc., and then get back on. Are there days when you don't get back on the business to work on the business at night?
Not quite yet.
So right now you're like rock solid, boom, every single day.
Yep.
Okay.
Saturday, Sunday, everything. And I do take time, of course, like I said, I still have my horse. So we go out, we trail ride a little bit during the day, but that's still, morning will start again, depending on what's needed for the next week. But the weekend is still very full with my business. And because that the weekend is when I can really focus without distraction. And I'll keep the phone away and just like, I have to dial in, and there's no distraction throughout the day. There's no other meetings, no other nothing. That was horrible grammar right there, so I apologize. But
but you weren't doing this 2 years ago.
No. Nope.
So something in your life has changed that is pushing you to do this. And one of the things that I talk a lot about, and I've read in a million places, is that, hey, when your why is strong enough, the how figures itself out. And just like when that deadline's coming and you have 24 hours to get it done, you figure out how to get it done, right? That's kind of the same, harnessing that same mindset of, hey, if you focus on your why and you program your why into your subconscious brain, then the how figures itself out and you just do it.
It does. And it's amazing how quickly it can come once you realize what that driving force is and you remember it daily. I mean, you and I were talking about like the fitness journey. It's like, once you realize what you're like, sometimes, yes, it is to get healthy, but like in your case, you've got 2 little ones that are running around that you've got to keep up with, and it's like, and I'm running around doing different stuff all the time. And I've got the niece and nephew at home, and there's just so many aspects to health and fitness that boil over into an entrepreneurial journey where it's like, it is consistency. And you can look at the whole, what was the example you and I talked about? When people talk about, the 30-day transformation in fitness. And it's like, anybody that says you can lose this amount of weight or gain this amount of muscle in 30 days, it's like, you can do something. You will get somewhere in 30 days, but it's not 30. This is not a 30-day transformation. This is this is the very tip of where you're headed. If you're making a decision to change your life within a wellness perspective, this is going to be a years long thing. It's not a 30-day thing. So that's kind of like, it's amazing to me how my own fitness journey has completely helped build my business, because that started a long time ago. And I love being in the gym now, and I love working out and doing crazy stuff. And again, I apologize for the dang that I can't figure out how to stop. But it's been really fun. I mean, I did, I'm going to fall into the bandwagon here, but I did 75 hard earlier this year, which was one of the Andy Frisella, I want to call it a challenge, because it's 100. It's a mental.
Those are St. Louis guys, I do believe.
Yes, they are, and it was definitely a challenging thing to do. But again, within 30, probably 45 days, everything was pretty well ingrained. And so yes, there were days that were challenging, because it's a lot to do, but the habits were already there, so it made everything else much easier to just keep going with it. Like, I got food poisoning during it, didn't quit. I had my plumbing went out during it, didn't quit, which is a horrible combination to have when you're peeing like a racehorse all day and drinking a gallon of water and doing 2 workouts and everything. But it's building the habit. It's building the habits. It's building the mental toughness. And one of my dear mentors, who just passed away recently, she coached on mental fitness as much as she did physical fitness. She was a Marine for a long time. And she has several TED Talks on building the mental toughness and fitness in conjunction with your mental fitness, because it's just as important. And especially going into a business, that's like, you need that more than anything else going into this. Because you're, again, like we said before, you're going to meet some obstacles. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Well, we're kind of getting to the end of this segment here, but talking about, hey, we all have our equilibrium, kind of our normal state, and your resting equilibrium, if you want to call it. And when things get tight and things get tough, and it's like, what, I got to pull myself out of this. The adrenaline pops in, and you get stuff done, and you get yourself back to that equilibrium. And I've given this talk to some younger adults, talking about when you owe $1,200 because your car breaks down, and you start saving, you get back to the normal. Well, then what? What happens after you get back to that level? Do you keep going with those same actions that got you to there? Because if you do, then you're going to keep saving money. Or do we rest back to our normal state and just keep that equilibrium? And so when things are tight, it's uncomfortable. But when things get to equilibrium, and then all of a sudden things are going really good, and you see the success, it also can be just as uncomfortable. Sometimes we see ourselves pulling back to equilibrium. So, how to break out of that top level restriction, or that top equilibrium, that's something that's easier said than done. And breaking through and keeping it going, building habits is one of the things that we talk about on this channel a lot. And how to do that is a lot easier said than done. We talk about doing something for 30 days straight. I mean, you get 10 days in, 7 days in, 15 days in, and
it starts getting hard.
Yeah, you may not see results. So you start questioning and doubting, was this really worth it? And get distracted, and maybe you forget. And if you miss one day, I mean, sometimes you have to start all back over. But the people that do something 30 days in a row, you're rewiring your brain, rewiring the priorities, and it changes you. And, my own, situation, kind of that nighttime work, I've been doing this for, I think, over 40 days now. And in the book Atomic Habits, they talk about the 2-minute rule, which I've implemented, because I got 2 boys that are 3 years old that I wake up to, and then I have my job, and then I come home at 5, and I, it's all them, and dinner, and then bath, and then down by 7:38. And so I'm exhausted. So I had to figure out something. I had all these goals I want to be able to accomplish. So how do I find a way to be able to tap in and utilize that time? And the 2-minute rule, I put on a timer for 2 minutes. And if I'm feeling it, I keep on going. If I don't, I turn it off, but at least I've kept that habit going. And, it's something that I don't even question it anymore. I don't have any anxiety over it. I don't have any pressure. It's like, I just do it because I built the habit, and you can stack on.
It's chipping away, it's chipping away consistently. It's not always big. You're like you said, it's not always going to reap something within 2 minutes, but tomorrow your day is going to be a little bit better because you chipped away for 2 minutes the night before. And to your point a minute ago about the financial piece, like being able to reach a point where you can reinvest into your business, that's another scary piece where you start getting money in, but you know where the money should go. And so sometimes saving right away isn't always like, sometimes you can't right away because that money needs to go back into the business so you can generate more. And it's tough, but it's part of the process.
I just love digging in this. You're like in the middle of your journey, you know, creating your own path, creating your own vision of what you want your businesses to be. And, you know, in the middle of it, what's one piece of advice that you would give to the next person that's trying to go, you know, get out of their own box and work on their dream?
So one of the best pieces of it, two pieces of advice. The one that I got as a freshman in high school was you cannot live your life in what ifs if you're actually going to live your life, because then when you get to the end, all you'll be doing is wondering what could have become when you could have seen what could have became. And I've held to that. And then the other one is roll with it. Like that's what some of the actual best advice I've ever gotten is breathe, roll with it, because it doesn't matter what industry you're in, what you do in your life, unless you're living under a rock, shit's going to get hard sometimes.
Yeah. Don't overthink it. Just do it and figure it out.
Just do it. Build your network of good people, because the people that are around you will make a huge impact. Make sure you're around people who support you more than you support yourself, because they will build you up, and then roll with it.
What did you say? Fire, ready, aim, fire, aim, ready.
Fire, ready, aim. Right. That's good. I mean, sometimes that isn't the right choice, but sometimes it is. And you just got to try.
Cool. So on this channel, we are unleashing a 30-day habit challenge coming to you guys soon. If this is something that you guys want to talk more about and want to, you know, jumpstart your own path towards reaching a goal, the 30-day challenge is something that we're coming out very soon. And Lindsey, I'm just so happy to have you on. Very, very cool.
Thank you,
I can't wait to
so
check
fun.
back in with you on your own journey, and you're helping me on a couple of my projects. So looking forward to it. Remind our listeners again, how do they find you?
You can find me on LinkedIn, and then on Instagram, I am at Lindsey Hope Co, all lowercase, one word.
Cool. All right, Lindsey. Thanks again. Until next time.
No problem. Thank you, guys.